Now that all the head coaching vacancies have been filled, I figured I would rate all the hires in this video. Now, a YouTuber with 200 subs is hardly qualified to grade these hires, but it's a fun exercise nonetheless. I'm sure these grades will hold up in 3 years. But before we get into the grades, please leave a like and sub on this video. I'm trying to reach 500 subs by the end of the month, so any little bit helps. Anyway, back to the video.
Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, is set to become the new head coach of the Chicago Bears.
So the Bears managed to land the most coveted coordinator of this cycle. Ben Johnson did wonders in Detroit. He helped revive Jared Goff's career and turn this middling Lions offense into a juggernaut. Ben Johnson runs a very creative offense that takes advantage of the talent available to him. But Ben Johnson doesn't only bring a great offense with him to Chicago. He brings a wealth of NFL experience. He's been in the league for 12 years working in various offensive roles. He also seems to be well liked by players, but we will need to see if he can truly be a leader and not just a coordinator. Though I do have confidence that he will be just fine. The Bears have needed a quality head coach for a long time. They will hope Ben Johnson can be that for them. They have quality players on both sides of the ball and a young quarterback that still needs to be molded. Like I said earlier, Ben Johnson helped revive Jared Goff's career, so it's within his ability to get Caleb Williams back on track. The Bears need to continue to build around Caleb Williams for this whole thing to work out. Ben Johnson had some real talent to work with in Detroit, but the Bears don't quite have the roster the Lions do. So we will see if Ben Johnson is able to make it work with lesser talent. But the Bears do have the 6th most cap space in the league, along with 8 picks in the draft. So they will have the ability to turn this around quickly. So I will give this hire an A. He was the most coveted coaching candidate for a reason. Him being an offensive head coach is a great pairing with Caleb Williams. And if they are able to build up the roster, this could work out very well for the Bears. Ben Johnson has brought in a nice staff so far, so that helps his grade. Though hiring Press Taylor is hilarious. I do have questions if he can really be a head coach and how he's able to do with lesser talent, but as you can see by my grade, those concerns aren't that big.
Liam Coen, after a dramatic couple of days in which he
This is probably the most interesting hire of this cycle. The process was a huge mess, but I'm not going to get into all that here. But if you want to know more about it, click the time card at the top of the screen. I made a whole video on this hiring, so if you want, you can check it out later. But this is another offensive-minded head coach. Coming from the McVay coaching tree, he has a very innovative offense. He revived Baker Mayfield's career with the Rams, made Will Levis look like a first-round quarterback for a season, and helped Baker Mayfield have a career year with the Buccaneers despite their top 2 receivers missing time. Last year was also his first time calling plays on the offense, and he delivered. The Buccaneers were top 5 in both passing and rushing offense. No other offense this year was top 5 in both. Not even Ben Johnson's offense with the Lions. The fact that he was able to do that in his first year as a play caller is really impressive. And he did it with the injuries the Buccaneers had on offense. So as an offensive play caller, Coen is very good. And the Jaguars really need a good offensive-minded head coach. They need someone to turn Trevor Lawrence into the quarterback we all thought he would be. And with the pieces they have on offense, they can turn this around in a hurry if Liam Coen is able to. Now, there are some questions about his NFL coaching experience. He's coached in the NFL for 5 years and only as an offensive coordinator for 2. And like I mentioned earlier, he's only been the play caller for 1 year. I mean, he was impressive in the 1 year he did call plays, and Sean McVay has some really high praise for him, but still something to be concerned about. But despite that, I give this hire an A-. His 1 year in Tampa was super impressive, and McVay coaches are highly coveted. He is also building a very young staff, a lot of young genius type coaches. I also respect the fact he was able to get Trent Baalke out of the GM role. Basically save the Jaguars from themselves. If this works out, it could really be a home run, but it could also very easily blow up in the Jaguars' faces.
Major for the New England Patriots. They are hiring their new head coach, and as you mentioned...
So the Patriots were very quick to get on this hire. They knew from the start that Vrabel was the guy, and it makes sense. He had some very successful teams with the Titans, so he has a proven track record. He's also from the Belichick coach tree that was not very successful, but he was a lone success story. The Titans always had a good defense when he was around, and the fact that he had Derrick Henry really helped. He's never had a good quarterback, so it's to be determined how successful he can be in developing Drake May. But bringing back disciplined football to New England will be very helpful for a team that has lacked direction. Drake May is the first promising quarterback they've had since Brady. Though an offensive head coach may be more desirable for a young quarterback, supporting him with a good defense is also a very good formula. Just look at how the Chiefs and Eagles have built their teams. They both had great defenses when they won their Super Bowls. Bill Belichick also won 6 Super Bowls while he had some very good defenses. So Vrabel can work out if he's able to bring in a good offensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels is a choice. He's had success with Brady, but how much of that was just Brady? Still, I give this hire an A-. It's a retread hire, but that's worked out before with Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. Vrabel probably has the highest floor of any coach candidate this cycle because you know what you're getting. If the Patriots are able to leverage their cap space and draft picks well, this could be a very quick turnaround. But you have to question how effective this offense can be. If Drake May is still able to develop and he gets some weapons, the Patriots could become a very good team again. But if he can't, this could be another Titans situation where they struggle to get over the hump.
It is done. The Jets will hire Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn as their head coach.
The Jets hired the most coveted defensive coordinator this cycle, and there's a lot to like about him as well. He has great leadership qualities and is very well liked by players. He's also a very good defensive coordinator. He helped turn around the Lions defense that was one of the worst units in the NFL into one of the best. It also helps the Lions defense got more talented, but that talent still needs to be coached out of the players. You aren't a top 5 defense by accident. He also brings a wealth of NFL experience. He's been a defensive coach for 10 years and also was a pretty good cornerback for 15 years. The Jets need a whole culture reset. Last season was an absolute mess for them. The way Robert Saleh was fired was a mess, the culture was bad, and they sucked. Aaron Glenn could really set the culture here. He's a great leader and seems to have what it takes to be a head coach. But there are some serious questions about Glenn. How reliant was he on the talent in Detroit? Yes, he helped them become one of the best defenses in the NFL, but he also led the unit when it was among the worst. He will be very reliant on his coordinators to help call the plays. And the major disadvantage of being a defensive head coach is if your offense does well, your offensive coordinator is very likely to get hired to a head coaching job. This could cause some instability in your offense that could really affect the development of whichever quarterback the Jets end up getting. And I'm going to give this hire a B+. Yes, Aaron Glenn is a great leader, but I do have some questions about his scheme, and the inherent disadvantages of a defensive head coach affect this grade. This just feels like a similar situation to Robert Saleh, just without the draft capital and the cap space the Jets had when hiring Saleh. This could end up going great with Aaron Glenn setting up a great culture and finding success like Dan Campbell and Mike Vrabel, but it could also crash and burn even quicker than Robert Saleh. So I just have some cautious optimism about this hire.
The Raiders have now agreed to terms with Super Bowl winning head coach Pete Carroll to be...
So the Raiders had to pivot after they failed to get Ben Johnson. Pete Carroll is a fine pivot. He had a lot of success in Seattle, even winning a Super Bowl. He's another defensive-minded head coach, but he certainly had success being one. Though the last few seasons in Seattle were tough, he's also getting there in age. He's 73 this season, and it's hard to know how long he will be a head coach for. But the Raiders need a culture reset. They went all in on getting Ben Johnson, but failed to lure him to Las Vegas. So they went after a proven head coach. Despite Carroll's age, this still could be a very good hire if Carroll can establish a winning culture and groom a successor after he decides to retire. The Raiders don't really have a whole lot on their team, and they've cycled through head coaches the past few seasons. So they need some sort of stability while they attempt to rebuild this team. So I will give this hire a B. Pete Carroll can give some much needed stability as the Raiders look for a franchise quarterback, either this offseason or next offseason. It's a really high floor, low ceiling type hire. I can't really see Pete Carroll delivering the Raiders a Super Bowl, especially in the division they're in, but if he can get a playoff appearance or two, this could be considered a successful hire.
Kellen Moore has agreed to terms with the Saints to become their new head coach.
Well, the Saints were the least desirable job this cycle. They have no cap space and a bunch of aging veterans. it's a hard sell for anyone looking to be a head coach for the Saints, especially since the Saints have been cycling through head coaches constantly. But they had to get someone, and Kellen Moore agreed to join the Saints. Moore was seen as a hot coaching candidate at one point, but after some meh years with the Cowboys and Chargers, the demand cooled. But he had a nice year with Philadelphia last year, winning a Super Bowl with them. If you look at his resume as a whole, he's led some top offenses with the Cowboys and Eagles, so there's a chance this could work out for the Saints. But looking at the Saints roster, it's rough. Derek Carr has not been good, they don't have any cap space, and they have one of the oldest rosters in the NFL. But the silver lining is they have 8 draft picks this season. 4 of those picks are in the top 100. They could at least build up some young talent that Moore could work with. But honestly, the Saints need a full reset. They need to clear some cap space and potentially acquire some more draft picks. Though the question will be if Kellen Moore will be able to see the end of the rebuild. So I'm going to give this hire a C+. There is some upside to Moore since he has led some top offenses, but those teams had far more talent than the Saints currently have. Other head coach candidates turned down this job for a reason. It's good for Kellen Moore to get hired to be a head coach somewhere if he wants to further his career in the NFL. Even if he isn't able to see the rebuild of the Saints all the way through, if he can show some promise as a head coach, he could get hired for another head coach opportunity somewhere else. But as a head coach right now, I'm just not super high on Kellen Moore. We will see if he can prove me wrong.
The Dallas Cowboys promoting from within, making Brian Schottenheimer their new head coach. He was the
Okay, what is this, Cowboys? Did you even try this cycle? If you were just going to do this, why did you let McCarthy go? At least this guy was a long-time offensive coordinator, but seriously? Look, I'll try to find some positives before I continue to roast the Cowboys. He's been in the NFL for almost 30 years, and he's primarily been an offensive guy, so he's had plenty of experience in the NFL. And he's been a part of some nice offenses with the Jets, Seahawks, and on the Cowboys. Especially the 2023 season with the Cowboys, who had a top 5 offense with Schottenheimer. He at least seems to be well liked by players. But okay, that's nice and all, but this is by far the worst coaching search process I have ever seen, and I'm a Jaguars fan. So you try to negotiate a contract with Mike McCarthy, and you even block the Bears from interviewing him. Then you don't even extend him. Now you start your coaching search a week late after everyone has already done their Zoom calls, so you can't interview any of the top candidates. Then you only interview 4 people. Kellen Moore, who was on the Cowboys a few years ago, Brian Schottenheimer, the current offensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, an ex-head coach, and Leslie Frazier, assistant head coach for the Seahawks. At least 3 of these guys were either former head coaches or considered by other teams for head coaching positions. But no, you go after Schottenheimer. You couldn't interview any of the top candidates because you handicapped yourself for no reason. And then you didn't give other legitimate candidates like Joe Brady or Todd Monken a shot for some reason. Probably the only reason you went for Schottenheimer was because he wasn't asking for much money. I have to give this hire a D-. The reason I'm not giving it an F is because at least Schottenheimer is a real NFL coach with plenty of experience. If they hired someone like Jason Witten, who has no NFL coaching experience, then I would have given them an F. The Cowboys had no reason to handicap their coaching search with the roster they have. The decision making by Jerry Jones is going to hold the Cowboys back from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And those are my grades. Let me know if you agree with any of my grades and which coaches you think will prove me wrong. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video.